يسر دولة قطر وجمهورية مصر العربية والولايات المتحدة الأمريكية الإعلان عن نجاح جهود الوساطة المشتركة بوصول طرفي النزاع في قطاع غزة إلى اتفاق بشأن تبادل الأسرى والرهائن والعودة إلى الهدوء المستدام وصولا لوقف دائم لإطلاق النار.
After more than 460 days of bloodshed in Gaza, Hamas and Israel finally reached a final ceasefire agreement that has been mediated by Qatar, Egypt, and the United States. The war, which began on October 7, 2023, has claimed more than 47,000 Palestinian lives, with at least 1,700 Israeli deaths and more than 200 Hamas prisoners. The incessant attacks of Israel and Hamas have made the world continue to monitor developments every second. Now, the ceasefire agreement that is planned to take effect from Sunday, January 19, 2025, is a new hope, even though it still leaves a big question mark. Will it really end the war, or is it just a temporary pause before the carnage resumes? Although the ceasefire agreement is in place, as of this writing, the final decision is still awaiting the Israeli cabinet vote. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, on Thursday, January 16, 2025, accused Hamas of reneging on some of the terms of the long-sought ceasefire. However, Hamas has denied the accusation, saying that it has fully accepted the contents of the agreement. Israel's wrangling over the ceasefire deal shows the world how difficult it is to create a permanent peace path for both sides. If the ceasefire deal has been agreed by both sides, it will be carried out in 3 stages. According to Al Jazeera, the first phase will last 6 weeks and will involve a limited prisoner exchange, a partial withdrawal of Israeli troops in Gaza, and a surge of aid to the Gaza enclave. 33 Israeli prisoners, including women, children, and civilians over the age of 50, will be released. In return, Israel will release more Palestinian prisoners during this phase, including 110 prisoners serving life sentences. As of January 1st, 2025, there were at least 10,221 Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails, not including an unknown number of Palestinians kidnapped from Gaza and held by the military. Along with the prisoner swap, Israel will withdraw its troops from Gaza's population centers to areas no more than 700 meters inside Gaza's border with Israel. However, this may not include the Netzarim corridor, the military belt that divides the Gaza Strip. Not only that, Israel will allow civilians to return to their homes in the besieged northern enclave. Though of course those homes have already been leveled by Israeli bombs. Israel will also allow an influx of up to 600 truckloads of aid per day into the northern enclave, an area already ravaged by famine due to Israel's vicious siege. Furthermore, Israel will also allow wounded Palestinians to leave the Gaza Strip for treatment and open the Rafah crossing with Egypt 7 days after the start of implementation of the first phase. If the first phase has been completed, as President Joe Biden stated, the second phase is the permanent end of the war. Biden said the ceasefire will remain in place while talks on the conditions for the second phase continue. In the second phase, the plan is that the hostage soldiers will be released, the remaining Israeli troops will be withdrawn, and the ceasefire will become permanent. In the third phase, the bodies of the dead hostages will be returned to their families, and the rebuilding of Gaza will begin. Even so, there is no agreement regarding the management of Gaza after the ceasefire. The United States is pushing for the re-establishment of the Palestinian Authority with the support of international partners to manage the territory. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken proposed the establishment of an interim authority for essential services with the help of troops from Arab countries to ensure short-term security. However, Arab support, including Saudi Arabia, is contingent on there being a path to a Palestinian state, which has been opposed by Israel. Moreover, the Palestinian Authority in charge in the West Bank is deeply unpopular in Gaza. So the Gaza realignment talks will be as complicated as the ceasefire talks. If the ceasefire goes well, it will be a new beginning for the people of Gaza who have been living in fear and tears for more than 15 months. Unfortunately, Israel has a long history of violating its commitment to the ceasefire agreement. Let's not even go so far as to discuss the violations of the ceasefire that have long passed. The previous ceasefire in November 2023 alone. Israel looked for loopholes and excuses to keep launching its attacks. In the past, ahead of the November 24, 2023 ceasefire, it was reported that Israel attacked the Indonesian hospital in Gaza, targeting the electricity generator and most of the hospital buildings. This attack occurred when around 200 patients and medical staff were inside the hospital, threatening their safety. It's the same now. Just as talks of a ceasefire agreement were announced, Israel immediately stepped up its attacks on Gaza.
As we were celebrating the ceasefire announcement, the Israeli warplanes took us by surprise. I woke up to find myself lying in hospital with head injuries.
Until this article was written, at least 80 Gazans have lost their lives. Not only in Gaza, Israeli forces have also carried out raids and arrests in the occupied West Bank. Despite the joy of the ceasefire, Gazans chose to remain vigilant by avoiding open areas and taking the utmost precautions to save themselves. Because the hours before the ceasefire begins are considered the most critical and terrifying time. The long process of reaching this agreement was full of political dynamics and international pressure that drained the emotions of all parties. President Joe Biden, in his official announcement, revealed that he had proposed a ceasefire since May 2024. However, this effort only showed real results when Donald Trump was re-elected as President of the United States. Trump's presence brought enormous political pressure to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who also faced demands from the Israeli public and military who were fed up with the prolonged conflict. The pressure from Trump comes with his characteristic bluntness.
I tell you this, we want our hostages back, and they better be back before I assume office, or you will be paying a very big price.
In December, he forcefully warned that there would be big trouble in the Middle East if Israeli hostages held in Gaza were not released before his inauguration. Trump warned that the consequences would not only be bad for Hamas, but also for the stability of the entire region. His statement shook up regional political dynamics and forced various parties to move quickly. However, it is not only external pressure that plays a role. Hamas's internal dynamics were also key in this process. According to a PBS News report, the change in leadership within Hamas brought about a major shift in their strategy. Whereas Hamas's main strength used to lie in its military ties with Iran, it now relies more on diplomatic relations with Turkey and Qatar. These two countries have a great interest in maintaining regional stability, especially for their continued influence in the region. Whatever the reason, everyone hopes that the ceasefire works. In the midst of the inhumane suffering experienced by the people of Gaza, every second counts to stop the ongoing destruction and loss of life.